Hi, my name is Joe Lovering, and today I'm going to be talking about my leadership philosophy. My leadership philosophy is that leaders are made and not born. It's contrary to the typical statement where people think leaders are born. I disagree because I feel that to be born with a ability means that you can't replicate it through being taught and through your own experience. A natural ability is Usain Bolt's ability to run. He can run and has run faster than anyone, and no matter how much someone observes this or trains for it, they have not been able to replicate that. On the other hand, leadership is a character trait, and a character trait is developed in a person through the different experiences that they have, the relationships they build, and the leaders that they are underneath. They develop their own theory of leadership based on the example that they're given. For example, at my first job that I worked, it was a summer job working at a refrigeration repair company that I got the job for because my dad worked there and they had an opening for just manual labor help. And so the one day the owner comes in because it's a small business and he berates me and curses me out in front of everybody because I improperly filled out my timesheet. And I understood that it was a mistake, but I didn't feel like the way it was handled was very fair to me. I didn't enjoy the fact that everyone there had made a joke of me now about how I screwed up a timesheet, and I didn't think I deserved it as someone who really had very little to no experience of what was going on there to begin with. And I felt if he had just pulled me aside and talked to me, it would have been much more beneficial for me. Instead, it made me fearful of screwing up again and probably took away from my work instead of helping me grow from my mistake. And I thought that after having a situation like that to deal with, I would actually develop more of an understanding toward those who I was trying to lead. But in fact, I ended up copying that type of leadership when I had my first opportunity to lead. I was working at Canisius on their event staff, and for one of the games days, it was to change over from after a lacrosse game to a baseball game that followed. And the graduate assistants were not available at that time to do the changeover. So there was a staff of about 5 or 6 of us, and the graduate assistant at the time asked me to be the one in charge of the changeover. And I felt I was ready to take on that responsibility because I felt like I knew everything that was going on and I was ready to try to take the next step in development. However, I ended up using that position to go after somebody that I didn't get along with very well when we were working alongside of each other. So I used the power that I was given to boss him around extra, and I ended up berating him about doing some work that I felt wasn't necessary to do at that moment, even though eventually it was going to need to get done. I was trying to insist on it being done in a specific order and the order that I wanted it done in. And as a result, I was just doing the exact same thing that my boss at that time was doing. And I feel that type of leadership is an example of what Red Auerbach was talking about in the video we learned about in class. I felt this was an old school type of leadership where you demean the person in an attempt to get the best out of them. I don't know if in that situation I was necessarily actually doing that. I feel like I was just using my position of power to take out frustrations on a coworker. But I did realize that that was not the type of leadership I wanted to do because I saw that as someone being a manager. And in this class, we've talked a lot about the difference between a leader and a manager. One example of a manager that I've had in my work experience is while I've been working at the University of Buffalo, one of the persons that was in charge of running the shifts, he would constantly just give instructions out to people who didn't really know what was going on and expect them to do it. And as soon as he told them what to do, he would kind of disappear and he would be either on the phone or in the bathroom for a while, or he was just nowhere to be found when people needed his assistance. So eventually they started giving up on even trying to ask him anything, and they'd start asking me. So it in turn gave me a chance to be a leader when it wasn't really my position to be a leader because there was someone there who was above me who was supposed to be in charge. But he was really acting like a manager. And a manager isn't helping in certain situations. And in this case, it really didn't help to have a manager. We needed a leader. So this goes on to my other part of my leadership philosophy, which I feel is to lead by example. I feel, and from what we've talked about in class, that leading by example is key. A leader needs to be able to do exactly what they're preaching to someone else how to do. For example, if I'm telling someone that they need to do the bleachers, I need to be able to tell them everything about the bleachers, what it needs to do to be put in properly, and every task that is involved with it. I need to have done it before so I can show them personally how I would do it if they ask any questions. And I need to be ready to go alongside them if they need that assistance. And that's what a leader does. A leader is someone who is willing to do the tasks necessary to get the job done and to better those around them. And nothing is going to make someone feel better than to have someone work alongside them who's supposed to be their leader and is doing the same things that they're doing. It makes them feel that their task is more important than they would feel if the person was just sitting back and watching them and saying, well, I'm not going to do that because I'm the one in charge and that's above me. That's not how someone leads. That's what a manager does. They'll sit back and wait for everyone else to finish. And then they'll be like, okay, well, I led you to getting this done, but thank you. Like, that's all they'll have to say. A leader is someone who is going above and beyond for their workers. And it's not someone, as I discussed earlier, who's going to berate them for doing something wrong to everyone. A leader will pull them aside and talk to them about what needs to be improved and the different ways that they can improve it. So, in conclusion, for my leadership philosophy, it's a lot about how leaders are made. Leaders are shaped by their experiences. And these experiences can not only be positive, but I highlighted mostly negative because I wanted to show how a negative can even be turned into a positive because the negative will show you the wrong thing. And if you are shown the wrong thing, then you will know what actually is the right thing to do as a result. I feel that my leadership has been shaped by these experiences. I feel that I've been made and not born into a leader. I feel that it is important for me to do everything that the other workers who I am trying to lead have done. And I do this through leading by example. And anyone who's put in a position of leadership should lead by example. And as a result, I leave you with this simple question. How do you want to be known as a leader? Do you want to be the person that sits on the sidelines, or do you want to be the person that gets in the game?